Have you ever felt like you were in the exact right place at the exact right time, even if it scared you to death? That's how it was for Mei Lin, a waitress in her late 20s, standing behind the polished counter of the Imperial Lounge in Hong Kong. The restaurant was alive that night, a hum of voices mixing with the clink of glasses and the faint buzz of the city outside the tall windows. Mei moved through the crowd, her black pants and white blouse crisp under her red vest, her blonde hair pulled tight into a bun. She looked like any other server, balancing trays and dodging rushed coworkers, but her eyes were sharp, catching every detail. Years ago, she'd been trained to notice things others missed, patterns, whispers, the way someone's hand lingered too long near a pocket. That life was gone, or so she thought, until Ethan Cole walked in with two guards who didn't act like guards at all. The Imperial Lounge sat high above the city, its sleek tables and dim lights drawing Hong Kong's elite. Businessmen in tailored suits laughed too loudly, while women in shimmering dresses leaned close to share secrets. Mei wove through them, delivering plates of steamed dumplings and glasses of wine, her smile practiced but never forced. She was rebuilding her life, one shift at a time, after leaving a world of codes and shadows she swore she'd never touch again. The money was enough to get by, the work kept her busy, and the routine dulled the ache of what she'd lost. But tonight, something felt off. The air carried a weight, like the moment before a storm. Ethan Cole stepped through the door at 8 sharp, his easy grin lighting up the room. He was a tech millionaire, the kind of man who made headlines for throwing cash at wild ideas, self-driving taxis, drones that delivered coffee. His dark hair was tousled, his suit jacket unbuttoned, and he moved like he owned the place, not out of arrogance but because he didn't seem to care. 2 men followed him, their suits stiff, their faces blank. They scanned the room like hawks, but not the way bodyguards should. Mei noticed it right away. Their eyes didn't linger on exits or corners. They were watching Ethan, not the crowd. She set a tray of drinks down and adjusted her path to pass closer. Table 12, Mei, her manager called, waving a hand. She nodded, grabbing a fresh stack of menus, but her attention stayed on Ethan's group as they settled into a corner booth. The taller guard, with a scar above his eyebrow, leaned in to whisper to the other, a stocky man with a buzz cut. Their words were low, clipped in Mandarin. Mei's heart skipped. She hadn't heard that language in years, not since her old life. She shouldn't have understood it, not as a waitress, not as the woman she was pretending to be. But the words hit her like a blade. When he leaves, the car, make it quick. Her hands tightened around the menus. She forced her face to stay calm, her steps steady as she approached a nearby table to take an order. The couple there bickered over appetizers, oblivious, while Mei's mind raced. The guards were planning something. Ethan was the target. She glanced at him, laughing at something a waiter said, his charm effortless. Did he know? He didn't act like it. His guards sat stiffly, their hands resting too close to their jackets. Mei's training kicked in, unbidden, like muscle memory. She needed to hear more. She moved to a table closer, clearing empty plates, her ears straining. The guards spoke again, their voices a low murmur under the restaurant's noise. The driver's ready, the scarred one said. No witnesses. Clean. The buzz-cut guard nodded, his fingers tapping the table. Mei's pulse thudded in her throat. She turned, pretending to wipe a spill, and caught Ethan's eye for a split second. He smiled, a quick flash of warmth, then looked away. He had no idea. Mei's mind spun. She could walk away. She could keep her head down, finish her shift, and go home to her tiny apartment. No one would know. But the thought made her stomach twist. She'd walked away from too much already, her past, her mistakes, the people she couldn't save. Not again. She straightened, her decision made before she could second-guess it. She had to get closer, confirm what she'd heard, and figure out how to warn him without tipping off the guards. She approached their booth with a tray of water glasses, her movements smooth, unhurried. "Good evening," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "Can I get you started with anything?" Ethan looked up, his grin boyish, almost disarming. "Just a whiskey neat," he said. "And whatever these guys want." He gestured to the guards, who barely glanced at her. The scarred one muttered, "Nothing," while the other just shook his head. May nodded, setting the glasses down, her eyes flicking to their hands. No visible weapons, but their jackets were loose enough to hide something. As she turned to leave, she slowed her step, lingering near a neighboring table to adjust a napkin. The guards spoke again, their voices barely audible. After dessert, the buzz-cut one said, "He'll be relaxed. Won't suspect." May's blood ran cold. Dessert. That gave her maybe an hour. She moved back to the counter, her mind mapping the restaurant, exits, blind spots, the kitchen door where staff slipped out for breaks. She could pull Ethan aside, but the guards were watching him too closely. A note, maybe, slipped into his hand? Too risky. They'd see. She poured Ethan's whiskey, her hands steady but her thoughts racing. Her old life taught her to read people, to spot lies in the way someone's eyes darted or their voice hitched. These guards weren't protecting Ethan, they were hunting him. For what? His company was big, but he wasn't a politician or a crime lord. Maybe a deal gone wrong, or a rival with deep pockets. It didn't matter. What mattered was time, and it was slipping away. May carried the whiskey back, her heart pounding but her face a mask of calm. She set the glass in front of Ethan, leaning in just enough to catch his attention. "Your drink, sir," she said, her voice low. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, she saw curiosity there, like he sensed something off. She wanted to blurt it out, "Don't get in the car," but the guards were watching, their eyes like knives. She smiled, stepping back, and moved to another table. The restaurant hummed on, oblivious. A woman laughed too loudly at a joke. A glass shattered in the kitchen, followed by a curse. May's mind churned through options. She could trip an alarm, 'cause a distraction, but that might spook the guards into acting early. She could call the police, but what would she say? She had no proof, just whispers in a language she wasn't supposed to know. And her past, she couldn't risk it coming up. Not yet. She glanced at Ethan again. He was sipping his whiskey, scrolling through his phone, carefree. The guards sat like statues, their eyes never leaving him. May's chest tightened. She'd been invisible her whole shift, just another server in a red vest, but now that felt like her only advantage. They didn't suspect her. They didn't know what she was capable of. She needed to use that, and fast. She slipped into the kitchen, grabbing a notepad from her pocket. Her hands shook as she scribbled a message. "Don't get in the car. They're planning to kill you." She folded it tight, her fingers brushing the paper's edge. She'd pass it to Ethan when she brought their food, a quick handoff disguised as clearing plates. It was risky, but it was her best shot. She tucked the note into her sleeve and stepped back into the dining room, the noise washing over her like a wave. The guards were still watching Ethan, but now the scarred one was checking his phone, his thumb moving fast. May's stomach dropped. Were they moving up the plan? She scanned the room, her eyes landing on the dessert cart near the kitchen door. If they were waiting for dessert, she could use that moment, get Ethan alone, slip him the note, maybe even pull him out through the staff exit. But she had to act natural, blend in, or the guards would notice. She grabbed a fresh tray, her mind locking into focus. The restaurant's lights glinted off the silverware, the city's skyline glowing through the windows. May took a breath, steadying herself. She'd been trained for moments like this, even if she'd sworn never to go back. Tonight, she wasn't just a waitress. She was the only thing standing between Ethan Cole and a bullet. May approached the booth with a tray of appetizers, her red vest crisp, her blonde bun tight. She set the plates down, her voice steady as she said, "Steamed buns and shrimp dumplings, sir." Ethan glanced up, his grin easy, almost boyish. "Looks great, thanks," he said, reaching for a bun. The guards didn't eat, their hands resting too still on the table. The scarred one, with the mark above his eyebrow, gave her a quick glance, his eyes cold, like he was sizing her up. She forced a smile and turned away, her pulse racing. The note burned in her sleeve, but the moment wasn't right. Not yet. She retreated to the counter, pretending to polish glasses, her eyes flicking back to the booth. Ethan was talking now, his hands animated, telling some story that made him laugh. The guards didn't react, their faces blank, but the buzz-cut one shifted slightly, his hand brushing his jacket. May's stomach twisted. Was he checking a weapon? She scanned the room for an opening. The dessert cart was still near the kitchen door, untouched. If she could get Ethan to step away, maybe to the restroom or the bar, she could slip him the note. But the guards were too close, their attention like a leash around him. The restaurant's rhythm pulsed on. A couple at a nearby table clinked wine glasses, their laughter sharp against the tension in May's chest. She caught her manager's eye and nodded, grabbing a pitcher of water to make another pass. As she approached the booth, the scarred guard was whispering again, his voice low, in Mandarin. The driver's confirmed. 10 minutes after he leaves. May's blood ran cold. 10 minutes. She set the pitcher down, refilling their glasses, her hands steady despite the storm inside her. Ethan looked up, catching her eye again. "You're quick," he said, his tone light. "Been here long?" She hesitated, her mind screaming to act. "A few months," she said, keeping her voice neutral. "You come here often?" It was a risk, engaging him, but she needed to keep him talking, to buy time. The guards shifted, their eyes narrowing. Ethan leaned back, sipping his whiskey. "First time. Heard the food's good." He grinned, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, curiosity, maybe, or unease. Did he sense the guard's tension? May couldn't tell. She stepped back, her mind racing. The note was still in her sleeve, but handing it over now would be suicide. The guards were watching too closely, and the dining room was too open. She needed a distraction, something to pull their eyes away. Her gaze landed on a waiter across the room, struggling with a tray of drinks. An idea sparked. She moved toward him, her steps casual, and leaned in as if to help. "Drop the tray," she whispered. "Near table 12. Now." The waiter, a young guy named Tom, blinked at her, confused. "Just do it," she hissed, her voice low but firm. He nodded, uncertain, and shuffled toward Ethan's booth. A moment later, the tray hit the floor with a crash. Glasses shattered, wine splashed, and heads turned. The guards' eyes snapped to the noise, their hands twitching toward their jackets. Ethan laughed, shaking his head. "Rough night, huh?" he called to Tom, who stammered an apology. May seized the moment. She stepped to Ethan's side, pretending to check the table, and slipped the note from her sleeve into his napkin, folding it quickly. "Careful with the glass," she said loudly, brushing past him. Her fingers grazed his hand, pressing the napkin against his palm. His eyes flicked to her, confused, but he closed his hand around it. She didn't wait to see his reaction. She moved to help Tom, kneeling to pick up shards, her heart hammering. Had the guards noticed? She stole a glance. The scarred one was staring at Tom, annoyed, while the buzz-cut one checked his phone. Ethan unfolded the napkin under the table, his movements slow, casual. His face didn't change, but his fingers tightened around the paper. He knew. The dinner dragged on, each minute heavier than the last. May kept her distance, clearing tables, refilling drinks, her eyes never straying far from the booth. Ethan ordered dessert, a slice of mango cheesecake, his voice light, but his posture had shifted. He sat straighter, his glances sharper, like he was seeing the guards for the first time. The scarred guard leaned in to whisper again, but May was too far to hear. She cursed under her breath. Were they changing the plan? Had they seen the note? She moved to the dessert cart, her hands shaking as she plated the cheesecake. This was her chance. She'd deliver it herself, get close, maybe pull Ethan toward the kitchen. But as she approached, the buzz-cut guard stood, his hand inside his jacket. Her breath caught. He wasn't reaching for a phone. The scarred guard stood too, his eyes on Ethan, who was still eating, oblivious to the shift. May's mind screamed. They were moving now. She set the plate down, her voice tight. "Your cheesecake, sir." Ethan looked up, his eyes locking with hers. She saw it then, fear buried under his charm. He'd read the note. He knew. But before she could say anything, the buzz-cut guard stepped closer, his hand emerging with a glint of metal. A gun. May's training kicked in, her body moving before her mind caught up. She grabbed Ethan's arm, yanking him from the booth. "Move," she hissed. The dining room erupted. A woman screamed as the gun fired, the shot deafening, glass shattering somewhere behind them. Ethan stumbled, his face pale, but May pulled him toward the kitchen, her grip iron. The guards shouted, their footsteps heavy behind her. She shoved through the swinging doors, the kitchen's heat and noise swallowing them. Cooks yelled, pots clanged, but May didn't stop. She dragged Ethan past stainless steel counters, her eyes on the staff exit at the back. "Keep moving," she snapped, her voice low but fierce. Ethan's breath was ragged, his charm gone. "Who the hell are you?" he asked, but there was no time to answer. The guards were close, their shouts cutting through the chaos. May's mind raced. The exit led to an alley, then the street. If they could make it there, they had a chance. But the guards were fast, and the gun was real. She pushed Ethan forward, her past roaring back to life. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was the woman who'd survived worse than this, and she wasn't about to let Ethan die. She led him to a doorway tucked behind a noodle stall, its metal gate rusted but sturdy. She banged twice, then once more, a code from a life she tried to bury. The door creaked open, revealing a wiry man in his 50s, his eyes narrowing at Ethan before softening at May. "You're late," he muttered, stepping aside. May pushed Ethan inside, the door clanging shut behind them. The safe house was cramped, lit by a single bulb, with peeling wallpaper and a table cluttered with burner phones and maps. It smelled of stale coffee and cigarette smoke, but it was secure, for now. Ethan sank into a chair, his hands shaking as he ran them through his dark hair. "Talk to me," he said, his voice low but urgent. "Those guys were my security. Why are they trying to kill me?" May locked the door, her movements precise, then turned to face him. Her black pants and white blouse were smudged with alley grime, but her eyes were steady, burning with a fire she hadn't felt in years. "They're not your security," she said. "They're hired muscle. I heard them planning it, your car, after dinner. A clean hit." His face paled, but he didn't interrupt. May hesitated, then let the truth spill out, the weight of it too heavy to hold back. "I used to work intelligence," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "Signals, intercepts, that kind of thing. I got out after a job went wrong. People died. I've been hiding here, serving drinks, trying to forget. But I know a plot when I hear one." She nodded toward him. "Someone wants you dead, Ethan. And they've got enough money to make it happen." Ethan stared at her, his easy grin long gone. "Why me? I build apps, drones, stupid stuff. I'm not a threat." May leaned against the wall, her arms crossed. "You're worth billions. That's enough reason for someone. A competitor, a partner, maybe someone you pissed off. You tell me." He shook his head, his jaw tight. "I don't know. But I trust you. You saved my life back there." The words hit her harder than she expected. She hadn't heard that in years, not since the job that broke her. She pushed the thought aside and pulled a burner phone from the table. "We need to move fast," she said. "They'll be looking for us. But we can turn this around, expose them." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "How?" May's mind was already working, piecing together a plan. "We go back to the restaurant. Set a trap. They think you're dead or running. They won't expect you to show up with a plan." The next few hours were a blur of preparation. May contacted an old friend from her intelligence days, a hacker named Lee who could pull strings without asking questions. She fed him names, descriptions, anything she'd overheard. By dawn, the news was breaking. Grainy footage of the Imperial Lounge shooting leaked online, with whispers of a failed hit on Ethan Cole. The guards' faces were plastered across X posts, their aliases exposed. May watched the updates on a cracked laptop, her jaw tight. "They're scrambling," she said. "That's our window." Ethan, still shaken but steadying, nodded. "What's the play?" May laid out the plan, returned to the Imperial Lounge at peak hour, when the place was packed. Lee had dug up dirt on the guards, ties to a shady private security firm with a history of corporate hits. They'd lure the mastermind behind the plot, someone high up, to the restaurant by leaking that Ethan was alive and ready to talk. May would pose as a waitress again, blending in, while Ethan played bait. If they could get the conspirators to show, Lee's contacts in the police would be ready to move. The restaurant was chaos that night, packed with curious patrons drawn by the shooting's infamy. May slipped in through the staff entrance, her uniform back on, her blonde hair tucked into a bun. The familiar clink of glasses and hum of voices grounded her, but her eyes were everywhere, watching for the guards, for their boss, for any sign of trouble. Ethan walked in at 9, his suit crisp but his face tense, drawing stares. He sat at the same corner booth, alone, a whiskey in his hand. May served tables nearby, her movements smooth, her ears straining for any hint of the plotters. Then she saw him, a man in his 40s, sharp suit, cold eyes, sliding into a booth across the room. She recognized him from Lee's intel, Victor Tan, a board member at Ethan's company with ties to the security firm. The scarred guard was with him, his face grim. May's heart raced. She caught Ethan's eye, a subtle nod. He stood, raising his glass like he was toasting the room, his voice loud. "To second chances," he said, drawing every eye. It was the signal. May moved fast, slipping into the kitchen and texting Lee, "They're here. Move." Outside, unmarked cars were already closing in, thanks to Lee's tip. Victor stood, his face twisting as he realized the trap. The scarred guard reached for his jacket, but May was faster. She grabbed a tray, swinging it hard against his wrist, the crack of bone loud in the sudden silence. The room froze, then erupted as police stormed in, shouting orders. Victor tried to run, but Ethan blocked his path, his fist connecting with the man's jaw in a burst of pent-up rage. It was over in minutes. Victor and the guards were cuffed, dragged out as cameras flashed. May slipped into the crowd, her vest discarded, her role done. Ethan found her later, outside, the city's lights flickering around them. "You didn't have to do this," he said, his voice soft. "You could have walked away." She shrugged, her eyes on the horizon. "Not who I am." He offered her a job, a blank check, anything she wanted. She shook her head. "I'm done with that life. Just make it mean something." She walked away, disappearing into the Hong Kong night, her steps light for the first time in years. Ethan watched her go, his reflection caught in a shop window. Days later, he'd fund a foundation in her name, quietly, no fanfare, helping people like her rebuild after their worlds fell apart. Her legacy wasn't loud, but it lingered, a whisper of courage in a city that never slept. And that's today's story, a tale of courage and quick thinking from a woman who refused to look the other way. May Lin's bravery reminds us that sometimes, the quiet ones among us carry the biggest strength. If this story moved you, hit that like button to let us know. Share it with someone who loves a good tale of human grit and transformation. And don't forget to subscribe for more cinematic stories like this one, delivered straight to your feed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time with another story that hits right in the heart.